Okay, so a couple of things before we get started on the notes. So, one thing, yesterday we were supposed to do the practice EOC practice test in the computer lab. We did not do that, so we are going to do that tomorrow. So tomorrow, you need to go and meet me at room 929 so we can do the EOC practice test, okay? Friday, you are going to have a quiz on the first half of this unit. And then when I have the quiz made and ready, I will put on the board. So tomorrow, I will have online on Canvas what your quiz will be on. So look on Canvas and to see what your quiz will be on so you know what to study for your quiz. You will have a quiz on Friday. So tomorrow we're going to do the practice EOC test. Friday we will have our quiz. Okay? You are going to be taking the EOC on Wednesday, May 19th. So on the 19th, you will take the EOC from 8:30 in the morning to 12:03 in the afternoon. And then after that, you will go have lunch. Okay? The test is about 60 to 66 questions. So you have plenty of time to complete the test. If you think that you are running out of time, or if you feel like you're running out of time, you will be given more time. So do not think that you are running out of time, that you only have a limited amount of time. If you need more time, you can ask for it. Okay? So we have 15 days, 15 school days left, 15 class days left. So I have to get through this unit and then we can start studying for our EOC. I have packets for everyone that we are going to work on together in class. And then also what I'm going to do, I don't know if I mentioned this yesterday, but what I will do is I will make a module in Canvas strictly for all of the EOC review materials that I'm given. So any EOC review material that I am given, I will put on Canvas under that module. I will also put all of the PowerPoints, so every unit's PowerPoint, I will put in there so you can go back and review. Anything that I am given, I will put in there for you. Okay? So, practice test tomorrow in room 929, quiz on Friday, and then we will probably finish this unit and have our test sometime at the end of next week. Okay? So we'll have our quiz tomorrow, test next week. Alright, so Monday, we finished talking about our trophic levels, and we made our food web, so you guys should have at least most, if not all, of your food web poster completed by now. If you don't, please continue to work on that and get that done. So our food pyramid, our energy pyramid, our food webs are all going to show the same thing, which is the movement of energy through the ecosystem. All right. So we have our different trophic levels, and our energy is going to move from the bottom to the top. And then those animals are going to die and decompose, and the decomposers are going to put that energy back into the plants. Sun is going to supply the plants with energy, and it's going to work into a cycle. So that's what we did on Monday. And we learned about our primary, secondary, tertiary, quaternary, and quinary, and we did our food web, so we're all good on that. So here is a question for you. A team of ecologists observed feeding patterns of several populations in the desert. The energy pyramid shown below depicts the feeding patterns the ecologists observed. Which of the following best explains the difference in the amount of available energy in the trophic levels of the desert ecosystem? So the key part, so this very well might be a question on your EOC, or this type of question on your EOC. So a very important part about this EOC and taking this test is that not only do you have to know the information, but a big part of it is how to take the test. So it doesn't have anything to do with the information, it's just how to answer the question. So with this question, they are asking you to pick the best answer choice that is referring to the picture provided. So if the answer choice has nothing to do with the picture, then that is not the best answer choice, and that is not the correct answer. So you need to read through your answer choices carefully and pick the best one that has to do with the picture that they give you. So letter A, there's less energy available in the producers because their tissues are less dense than those at higher trophic levels. Is that a true statement? Why is that not a true statement? What part is false? Correct. This word is incorrect. So the main concept of a energy pyramid. So the main concept of an energy pyramid is what? You have what kind of energy down here? What amount? You have a lot of energy down here, and as you go up, what happens to that energy? You lose energy. So energy is going to decrease as you go up. So there is not less energy down here, there is more energy. So that one word makes that whole statement false. So letter A is not correct. Letter B, there is more energy available in the second trophic level because less energy is needed for hunting compared to the higher trophic levels. Is that a true statement? No. What word makes that false? More. There is not more energy available in the second level. There is what kind of energy? Less energy available in the second. So that one's false, so that one's out. C, there's more available energy in the birds of prey because they have greater muscle mass for storing energy than organisms in lower trophic levels. Is that a true statement? No. So all of these are talking about your energy levels, but they're saying the opposite. So there is not more energy, more available energy. There is less available energy. So all of these are saying the opposite. So let's look at D. Hopefully D is our correct answer. D says there is less available energy in the fourth trophic level. So fourth trophic level is up here. There is less available energy in the fourth trophic level because of the loss of energy through metabolism in each of the lower trophic levels. Is that a true statement? Yes. That is the only true statement that deals with the picture provided. So these three were incorrect, but these two specifically, A and C, I think, yes, A and C aren't actually referring to the picture because A is referencing the tissues of producers of plants and C is talking about the muscle mass of consumers. Neither one of those is in reference to the picture and the trophic levels that is in this ecosystem. So not only are A and C false statements, but they have nothing to do with the picture provided. So make sure that not only is your answer a true statement, but that true statement does refer back to the picture that they want you to reference. Because that is a big part of the question. It wants you to pick the best answer that talks about the picture. Okay? So yes, D was the correct answer. Very good. Okay. What about this one? So in an ecosystem, the herring population was reduced by fishermen. As a result, the tuna, which fed on the herring, disappeared. The sand eels, which are eaten by the herring, increased. The fishermen then overharvested the sand eel population. The number of cod and seabirds then decreased. Which food web best represents the feeding relationships in this ecosystem? So again, a big part of this test is how to take this test. So you are going to need to employ different testing strategies. One of those testing strategies that I very highly recommend you do is if you are given a question that has a lot of reading, that gave you a lot of words, that gave you 5 different animals that you have to organize. So before you even start looking at your answer choices, don't look at your answer choices yet. Go off to the side. When you take your EOC, you will be given a little workbook that you can write in, so you can write down some stuff. Go off to the side or on your paper, write down some notes, draw some pictures that are going to help you solve the problem before you even look at the answer choices. Because looking at the answer choices might confuse you. So we're going to go over here and we're going to jot down some notes, we're going to draw some pictures to help us answer this question. So what is the first animal that I'm given? I am given the herring. So we're talking about the herring. And then we're given what? So we have herring, and then we're given the tuna. So what is the relationship between the herring and the tuna? The tuna eats the herring. So if I'm making a food web, then my tuna has to go above my herring, or I have to put an arrow from my herring to my tuna because my tuna is going to eat my herring. And then the herring disappeared. That's not important to me right now. Okay, so then we have sand eels. And where are my sand eels going to go in my food chain or my food web? At the bottom, and then my arrow, so if I put sand eels, how is my arrow going to go? In what direction? Up, because my herring is going to eat my sand eel, or my sand eel is going to get eaten by my herring. Okay, now we have two separate situations happening. So that was the first situation. So now we have a second situation. Now the fishermen are then going to overharvest the sand eel. Well, we already have sand eels, so I'm going to ignore that. The number of cod and seabirds then decreased. Why do you think the number of cod and seabirds then decreased, or what would cause them to decrease? They're going to eat the sand eels. So if the sand eels are overpopulated and taken away, then they have no food. So they are going to decrease, or their population is going to decrease because they have no more food. So either the cod and the seabirds are going to both eat the sand eels, or one will eat the sand eels and the other one will eat that one. So I don't know, it doesn't really give me much detail on these relationship between these two. So for right now, I'm going to leave it like that. I'm going to try and answer my question with the information that I'm given. So what is going to be, or what should the organism be at the very bottom of my food web? Sand eels. I know without a doubt that my sand eels have to be at the bottom of my food web. So now I'm going to go over to my answer choices, and I'm going to get rid of, through the process of elimination, which is another testing strategy, I'm going to get rid of all of my answer choices that do not have sand eels at the bottom, which are which two?
B and D.
I'm going to get rid of B and D because both of those do not have sand eels on the bottom, so I know that those are automatically not correct. So now I have A and C. Well, what is the difference between A and C? Why are these different? What's different about them?
The top is split.
The top is flipped. So they have seabirds are eating herring and tuna is eating cod, or they have tuna eating herring and seabirds eating cod. Well, if I look back in the reading, which is another testing strategy, if you are not sure how to pick the best answer, go back to the question, reread the information they gave you. So what information do they give us that's going to help us answer this question finally? The tuna eat the herring, which feed on the herring. So my tuna should be above my herring. Is this correct? No. My tuna should be above my herring. This is correct. So C is my correct answer. Guys, a big reason why you as freshmen take this class is because the EOC is a lot of reading. Okay? So when in doubt, if you're having trouble answering a question, go back and read the question. Go back and read. If they give you something to read, if they give you a little passage, go back and read it. You have plenty of time. Okay? Read the question. Reread the question if you need to. So yes, our food web that matches that is C. Yes, ma'am. Yes. All right. This next part, I'm going to get some.
These questions that were supposed to be addressed. Or was that a question? You said we didn't take a test yesterday.
The practice test, I think this one was on the practice test. This one, I heard, was on the practice test. I don't know. But the type of question, so you may not see this exact question, but you'll see the type of question. So the information will still be tested. It'll just be tested in a different way. Everything okay? Okay. Okay. So this next part I'm going to breeze through because we already talked about cycles in the biosphere. So first we talked about, or one of the ones we talked about was the carbon cycle. So remember, carbon is going to be made by plants and glucose. They're going to use the carbon dioxide in the atmosphere to make glucose and oxygen. That glucose is going to be eaten by consumers. Consumers are going to decompose, which that carbon is then going to be put in the soil. That's carbon can lead to fossil fuels. We take the fossil fuels out, we burn it, we put carbon dioxide in the atmosphere, and then it continues on its cycle. Also, carbon can make its way into water systems, but that is your carbon cycle. And then we talked about the water cycle. So the water cycle, water starts in our oceans. Water is going to evaporate into the atmosphere. It's going to cool down, condense, make clouds, and then through precipitation find its way back to Earth. And then it's going to move across Earth, down mountains with the flow of gravity to find its way back into the ocean. That is runoff. It can also collect underground in what's called groundwater. And you also have water leaving the leaves of plants through transpiration. So there's your water cycle. We also talked about abiotic factors. So what we're going to do now is we're going to kind of focus more on aquatic ecosystems. So we talked about the different biomes on Earth. Those different biomes are more or less land or terrestrial ecosystems. So you have your tundras, your deserts, your tropical rainforests, your, I think they're called boreal forests or deciduous forests. You have, I said tundra. You have all those are all your land and ecosystems. So now let's talk about our oceanic ecosystems. So our first part of our oceanic ecosystems is actually not part of the ocean at all. It is our freshwater systems. So our freshwater systems are found more inland or more inside the continent. These are your lakes, ponds, streams, and rivers. Your freshwater systems are going to have either very, very, very little salt dissolved in it or no salt dissolved in it at all. Or usually it's very, very, very little salt. A part of your bodies of water is the photic zone. Photic meaning photosynthesis. So these are zones where light can penetrate the water, where plankton in the water can do photosynthesis. So if light is able to penetrate that water, you are in the photic zone, you can do photosynthesis. Okay? Ponds and lakes are going to be stationary water, so the water is not moving. Obviously a pond is small, a lake is big. And then rivers and streams, those are going to be your water that is moving or flowing. Your rivers are large, your streams are small. They're both moving water. Okay? Again, freshwater has very, very, very little salt dissolved in it. And then as you start getting closer to the ocean, you are first going to be in what's called an estuary. So an estuary acts as like a middleman between the freshwater systems on land and the oceanic environment. So they're kind of in the middle. And this is where your freshwater and your saltwater are going to meet and they're going to mix. So these are really, really good environments for many different animals because these environments are going to act as nurseries. They are going to also be able to hold very diverse life. So that's a lot of food that's available, a lot of nutrients that are in those ecosystems. And that food and that nutrients are going to allow oceanic mammals to come to those estuaries, give birth to their young, and supply their young with nutrients until that baby is big enough to migrate back with its mother to where it came from. So estuaries have diverse life, and they're usually used as nurseries by oceanic organisms, mammals usually. Okay. Yes, sir.
Is fishes, is that a word or is
fishes. Fishes isn't really one fish.
I thought it was the fish.
Nope, the fishes. So usually if you are at the beach, usually if you're at the beach, you are at an estuary. Usually. If it's a beach where it kind of goes inland, then yes, that is an estuary. If it just goes straight to the ocean, it may not be an estuary. But usually your beach areas are where your estuaries are. Donovan, can you open my door, please? Did you finish? Yes. Okay. Is this a pen? Luke? Is this pen? No, not on the screenshot. It's fine. I'll fix it. Alright, so estuaries are usually around the beach. They have diverse life and they usually are going to provide a nursery for oceanic mammals and other animals. So then once we leave our estuary, we are now getting closer and closer to our ocean. So now we have reached our saltwater environments. So the first part of your ocean is actually called your intertidal zone. So when you do go to the beach, the part of the water that you are going to go into is the intertidal zone. So you go into the intertidal zone of the ocean. This is the edge of the estuary, so you are leaving the estuary. Usually at that area, you are going to have what are called salt marshes, and then rocky beaches, and then it leads to your actual ocean. And this is where you can find your tide pools. So you have your lakes and rivers leading to your estuaries, leading to your salt marshes, leading to your open ocean. Okay. So then once we do get into our open ocean, the open ocean has its own zones, or it's divided into its own zones. Again, the two major zones is if light can penetrate it, or if light is able to get into the water, then it is the photic zone, because that is where photosynthesis occurs. If you are going down deep and it starts to get dark, so there's no light there, because light is not able to penetrate down that deep, then you are in the aphotic zone and you cannot do photosynthesis. And then you have the benthic zone, which is basically the ocean floor. Now, the ocean floor can have a different biodiversity based on how deep you are. So the ocean floor, if you are in the intertidal zone, that is still considered the ocean floor that you are walking on. It's just very shallow, so you have a lot more diversity. A little bit deeper, but still on the continental shelf, so I'll show you what that looks like, is where your coral reefs are. So still in that photic zone, so not that far down, but farther down than this one. And then all the way down, so this is still considered the ocean floor. And then obviously all the way down, deep, deep, deep down the ocean, that is this is what most of your animals will look like when you start going down deep. They're going to either be translucent, so you can see through them, or they're going to be very dark and weird looking. Yeah, it's called a squid.
No.
Squid. It looked like a jelly.
And squids are pretty weird looking. I think they look like aliens.
No, there's like this one that has like really long tentacles.
That's a squid.
No, not that. It's not the giant squid.
It looked like it was like.
It's a giant squid.
No, we're not talking about giant. I'll show you.
Okay, perfect. All right. So here is your ocean, and here's the different parts of the ocean. So up here is where we are. We hang out in the intertidal zone. Here are our estuaries, and their estuaries are going to lead into our ocean environments. You have this part, this is your continental shelf. This is the ocean floor leading to the deeper part of the ocean. If you've seen Finding Nemo and they talk about the drop off, this is the drop off. So your continental shelf will gradually decline, and then at a certain point it will literally drop off, and your decline becomes much more dramatic. So once that continental shelf, once you reach the drop off, everything out is your open ocean, is your open sea. Yes, sir. Yes. A lot darker, a lot colder, a lot faster. So everything on this top level, again, if sunlight can penetrate, it is your photic zone, sometimes called your euphotic zone. This is where you can do photosynthesis. After a certain point, if light cannot penetrate it, you then reach your aphotic zone. Your aphotic zone is further divided into your, I think it's either bathal or bathal. It doesn't matter. But that one, and then your abyssal. So as you go down, it's going to get colder, your pressure is going to increase, the animals are going to look weirder. So there's your ocean. These two questions I want to ask to you. So first, what do you notice about organisms at each of the various zones?
They get bigger and sometimes.
So where are they bigger at?
Top.
Usually your bigger organisms are going to be located at the top, and as you go down, your organisms will get smaller. Usually. You do have some of the exceptions. So your giant squid is going to primarily live deep under, down here, but it is about the size of a grown man. So it is a giant squid, but they live usually down here. And you do have these guys called plankton, krill, and they're very, 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 very tiny, and whales eat them, and they live up here. But for the most part, you have large ones going down to the small ones. Yes, sir. Yes. What other differences do you see amongst the organisms? John Aldi?
For the anglerfish, it has no light, so you can see other animals.
So all of our animals do have adaptations, but usually most of the time, these animals are going to have adaptations specifically for living in cold, dark environments, including some kind of light source to attract prey.
Also, the light source they use, other fish can't see it, so they can see them, but they can't see it.
Correct. Yes, sir.
Would the bikini bottom be on the continent?
I think so.
Yes, I believe so.
So they gave you
Any other differences between the organisms? So large to small. There was two main differences I wanted y'all to pick out. Large to small.
I mean, the ones in the abyss are like darker than the ones above it. Yeah.
So usually these ones down here, they will either be see-through or they'll be darkly colored. Vito, did you have one?
That was it.
Oh.
They like seem to be like the same color.
Yep.
Or, like a little bit darker than this one.
Yep. Yes,
I
ma'am.
just had a question, and it just made me like think of this thing. It's not for like the chains of it, but it's about the ocean. It just made me like think of it.
Okay.
Because I saw like the shore. Is it possible for like Florida to go bye-bye because like the water?
Is it possible for what?
For like Florida to like go underneath water, like be gone.
Yeah.
I mean,
Happens, but that doesn't exist.
No, because I mean if the water keeps on coming up, the shorelines keep on like getting like.
oh, you mean like the sea level rising?
Yeah, I mean it's happening
Yes.
to like some on the shore. of
Yes,
North
Florida
Carolina,
could
so-
become under the ocean, yes.
Oh.
If sea levels continue to rise, Florida is below sea level. So if sea levels continue to rise, then Florida could be below sea level permanently. Yes. So no, that's not that extreme to think about. That's a very
Like,
possible
how many years
possibility.
Does that happen, like 100 years, or like more, or like in our lifetime?
It depends on how quickly we affect the rising sea levels. If we increase the intensity, then it's going to happen faster.
How fast are the sea levels rising?
We're gonna be.
I do not know that specific information. You'd have to Google it. Yes, Matthew.
Are there multiple drop-offs for each zone? So like, because of
There could be. Yeah. Yes, there could be.
There's like lakes underwater.
Yes.
That are very salty.
What, Oh, I know the other one. So there's still one more difference in the organism. Someone other than John Aldi and Matthew. What is the difference between the organisms? So they're big up here, small down there. What's another one? There's more of them where? Up here. You have a larger biodiversity up here than you do down here. As you go down, you will get fewer and fewer and fewer amount of organisms. Yes or no?
There's also more coral on the top, and then
Yes.
you get lower and lower.
Yes. All right, so the last part of this unit, we're going to talk about biodiversity and conserving that biodiversity. So first, what is biodiversity? Biodiversity is the variety of life in an area that is determined by the number of different species in that area. So basically, how diverse is the biotic factor in your ecosystem? How many species can this ecosystem hold? If it can hold a lot, and a lot of different species, then it has a high biodiversity. If it has a few numbers of different species, then it has low biodiversity. So biodiversity is going to increase the stability of an environment. So the more species you have in an environment, the more stable that environment is against bad things happening. Because you have a lot of things participating, and so if one of them goes away, it's not that bad of an issue. Whereas if you only have one or two, if one of them goes away, then everything is going to be affected. So some other important parts of the biodiversity, especially when it comes to us, because we rely on the biodiversity of the earth. If the biodiversity of the earth is high, that means that those ecosystems are healthy and they can support us, because we eat plants and we eat animals. So if the biodiversity is low, that means that there's not that much food for us. There's not that many plants out there. There's not that many animals. So that would not benefit us. So it would benefit us as a human race to take care of our planet and make sure that the biodiversity increases or continues to be good, because the more the biodiversity, the better it is for us. So take care of the planet and you will be better off as a human race. Is essentially the message. So what threatens biodiversity? Long story short, we threaten biodiversity. So we do a lot of different things that is going to decrease the biodiversity and therefore decrease the chance of us thriving on this planet. So the different types of threats that we are going to cause changes on the earth. So either we outright are going to cause a decrease in biodiversity, or the things that we do are going to cause that decrease. But it has been scientifically seen that since the development of Homo sapiens, of humans, the increase in extinctions and the decrease of biodiversity has happened faster in the last few centuries since the evolution of human beings than before human beings were on the earth. So yes, extinctions happen naturally. It is a natural occurrence. It has happened before we came along. But the fact is that since we have been on planet Earth, extinctions have been happening more often than they used to. Okay? So how do we affect biodiversity? What are the threats that we cause? Well, we cause one thing is called overexploitation, and then we are also going to cause either the loss of habitat or the destruction of habitat, which these two kind of go hand in hand. If you destroy the habitat, then you are going to lose that habitat for those animals, for those plants. Overexploitation, that is when you are going to use a species, so you take a species out of the environment, you hunt or whatever, to an excess for your economic gain. So an example of that would be a lot of oceanic animals in the eastern hemisphere are used as medical aids. So a lot of body parts of some oceanic animals are thought to have medicinal purposes. I think it's stingrays. The gills of stingrays are dried and used as a dried up powder that you can put in food, and that will help you be more healthy. Shark fin soup is eaten in the eastern hemisphere and they just need the fins though. So they will take the shark, they will cut off the fins, put the shark back in the water. The shark cannot swim without fins. The shark has to swim in order to breathe. So the shark has to move through the water because the water moving through the gills is how it gets its oxygen. So if the shark can't move, then the shark is going to die. And the shark can't move without fins. So the exploitation of shark fins is leading to the devastation of the shark population. Yes, Matthew?
Can a shark like sit still in a current?
In a current, yes. If the water is moving, then it'll be fine. But sharks, they don't stop moving. They are constantly moving. Because if they don't move, then they die. Taylor, did you?
Just catch a shark and drop its fins and then
Yes.
That's what they do when the shark dies. Because the shark can't move, and if the shark can't move, then it can't get oxygen. Because it has to move through the water for the water to move through the gills
why don't they just kill the shark?
because they only want the fins. Yeah. So those are a couple examples of overexploitation. And then obviously, like I said, habitat loss and destruction of habitat. A good example of this is deforestation. So obviously, if you go out and take a crap ton of trees from the habitat, then you are going to lose that habitat by destroying that habitat. Another part of that losing of habitat is habitat fragmentation. So what was thought was a solution to deforestation. Instead of taking out big giant chunks of trees, what if we take out small chunks here and there? So we're essentially taking out the same amount of trees, but instead of one big giant piece of land, we're taking out, little pieces here and there. It was thought that that would be fine, that animals would be okay, because you're still leaving some of its intact environment. But the thing is, you are still taking the same amount of trees out of the environment. So now, instead of taking a giant chunk, now you've affected the whole ecosystem. So all of the forest is now affected because you're taking chunks out everywhere. So it was not really a good solution because it still had the same effects. It's still not going to be good because those animals are used to having a large environment. If you take it down, they can't survive. They don't know how. They're used to a large environment. Now you've decreased them, they're probably not going to survive. Okay, so that's where we'll start today. That's where we'll stop today. Tomorrow we will do the practice test. So remember, go to room 929. Friday is your quiz. I will have on Canvas what your quiz will be on so that you know.